to normalize this emotional roller coaster, because there is an emotional roller coaster that we go on as moms when it's time for our kids to leave the house. Well, let me say that for some of us, because some people are like, I'm ready for you to get out of my house. Da, 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 da. No, no, I'm not one of those. But I know there are some, and no shade to those who are ready for them to get out. I don't know the dynamics of what your children have brought you, but all I can say is I have amazing kids. Yes, they've done things that I have not been proud of at times, but overall, they're amazing kids. They bring me joy. Welcome to Pursue Her podcast, where we explore real life issues through the lens of faith and personal growth. Welcome back today. And this one's for my mamas. Okay, sis, we are going there today. You know that moment when your baby, yes, the one you used to rock to sleep, they start packing their bags. They start making plans. And then suddenly it's like, it's time for them to go. It's time for them to leave the home. So let's talk about the stuff that people don't say when that chapter begins. It's the fear, the grief, the guilt, the growth. It's so many things that happens when we get to that stage when it's time for your children to leave the home. Nobody really prepares you for that. Nobody prepares you for what that feels like when the house gets a little quieter, when there's one less personality, depending on how many kids you have. I'm a mom of 4. My oldest one is in the Navy. So I've already got one out the house, and it was hard. And I have another one who is next year is going to be a senior. We're already looking at colleges and stuff. It's challenging. It doesn't get easier when another kid leaves, because for me, I guess it's say I have a different relationship with each kid. Each one of them brings a different perspective, right? Is we have a different type of relationship. So when one leaves, I feel like I'm losing a part, right? Or the dynamics of our friendship, the dynamics of our relationship overall. And they leave this bubble where you thought you worried about them. Worry definitely tries to take over when they got to leave the house. Again, this is something that people don't really talk about. And we need to talk about it. So there's this slow build, right? There's this silent countdown that starts to happen in parenting. And if you're not there, and maybe you are there, just lean into this, okay? They start to slow to dependence, to slow to independence. So they get a driver's license, they get into part-time jobs, they're starting to apply to schools, or if they're doing trade schools, or they're doing entrepreneur endeavors. It looks so different nowadays. And then oftentimes we carry as parents like a little bit of grief, but we're still being their cheerleader. So there's a part of you is like, I am so excited to see what you're doing. I'm excited about the moves you're making. I'm excited about you being responsible, because that is what you want. You want your children to be able to thrive without you, right? But there definitely still comes a part like, that's my baby. That's my baby, right? And then you begin to miss them. So it's feeling like you're on the edge of a cliff and you're smiling for them, but you're crying in private on the inside. Right. There's so many times, even when my husband starts talking to our second oldest as he gets ready for college, and they start talking about college. I'm like, we're not talking about this right now. Can we just change the subject right now? Like, I don't want to talk about this right now. Like, I need to be in the right headspace, because I don't want them to feel bad for me, because this is not about me. Can't make this about me, but I am sad as a mother. Okay. Your child isn't just growing up, sis. You are also being stretched too. This changes the seasons of motherhood. Motherhood looks different as they get older and they start to leave the house. So many things go through your minds. Okay. Here are some of the fears that we may not say out loud. I think I articulated with my husband, and more so with my mom. Will they be okay without me? Are they going to make the right decisions? Are they going to know what to do? Did I teach them enough? Did I talk to them? And I do a lot with character building. How do you identify good friends, bad friends? How do you identify good girls to be in relationships with and who to stay away from? How do you identify pedophiles? How do you identify people trying to take advantage of you? What if some people might question, what if they don't come back often? What if the relationship gets a little strained, or whatever the case, depending where they're going, or whatever the dynamics of your relationship were? If they are not in the best condition when they're home, you will wonder like, well, what is my relationship going to look like with my child now when they leave the house? Those are things that you also think about as well. These are normal fears though. They're typical things that come across different moms at different times, but many moms feel shame for even having them. But I want to normalize this emotional roller coaster, because there is an emotional roller coaster that we go on as moms when it's time for our kids to leave the house. Well, let me say that for some of us, because some people are like, I'm ready for you to get out of my house. Da, 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 da. No, no, I'm not one of those. But I know there are some, and no shade to those who are ready for them to get out. I don't know the dynamics of what your children have brought you, but all I can say is I have amazing kids. Yes, they've done things that I have not been proud of at times, but overall, they're amazing kids. They bring me joy. They bring me so much joy. It's the greatest gift. Okay. So, while we're grieving, while we're grateful, yes, you're proud. You're thankful for who they are. Maybe some of them are getting scholarship opportunities to go to college. Maybe some of them are getting internship opportunities. You may have a kid that's in college right now who's left the house, but now they're about to move further away from the house, depending where they are or where they're going. You're grieving the role that you once had, because guess what? They don't need you as much. And that's something that I think I've experienced throughout the years of my kids getting older, because I'll call my mom, even when they're from toddler to elementary age, they don't need you for certain things. I'm the one to be like, they really don't need me no more. They're becoming independent without me. And that really is what you want. You do not want a kid who is totally dependent on you. And I know some moms might thrive off of that, but that means you are not equipping your child to make it in society without you. Because let's be honest, mamas, tomorrow is not guaranteed. Tomorrow is not promised. If you are their everything and you have not taught them how to rely on God, if you haven't taught them how to be problem solvers and to deal with time management and to talk about how do we deal with stress, how do we identify our triggers, these are conversations I have with my kids, then they are not equipped for society. And we still want them to be equipped for society. We're partnering with God to raise them, not to enable them. Okay. We need them to be able to go do whatever God called for them to do. Okay. Um, Grief and gratitude can exist at the same time, because things are changing. That mom seems fine. Why do I feel lost? Are also some things that people deal with: comparison. Don't compare yourself. You do not know the ins and outs of different mother and child relationships. You do not know the ins and outs of other people's family dynamics. And you look at other people and you just see the celebratory side of them. And you're like, but I'm sitting around here crying tonight by myself because my baby's leaving, looking at pictures and things of that nature. Okay. But it's okay. We just kind of sometimes got to talk about it and process it through. Now, another thing that we have to realize as we're going through this, you're now rediscovering you. There are another part of you that is also coming out during this journey and this season. After years of pouring out, now it's time to return to the parts of you that you might have put on hold. Because there are some situations where parents, you've put your mamas, you don't put your whole life just into your kids. You have put every focus, everything into them, and you have just been just a mom. Honestly, that has been majority, because that is what brought you joy. That is what brought you a sense of fulfillment. That has brought you a sense of purpose. There are moms out here who enjoy being mothers. I know that's not the case for everybody, but there are some of us out here who just flat out enjoy being a mom. But now you're also having to find another dynamics of, okay, but who are you? What are those dreams? What are those desires? What are those things that you now need to start doing? Right? It's a new space, it's a new opportunities, hobby, rest, healing, traveling, purpose. What is something that you've been wanting to return to but didn't have the time to or capacity for while raising your child? I want you to think about that. What is something you've been wanting to return to but didn't have the time or capacity for while raising your child? What is that thing? Because you are more than a mom, whether you realize it or not. And even as one child leaves, you still have the others, and there's still different responsibilities that come with that. But there's the dynamics with the child who leaves the house, it looks a little different, right? There were less sports games I had to go to when my oldest child left. There was, and even with some of them, when they start driving, right? We got our second oldest a car. I don't have to I'm not coming back home and driving him to band practice or drop him off at work or taking him to this band camp because now he's driving. But when we were driving together, that was still a lot of times where we spent together. There were, where we talk and conversation. So now that's gone. And you're like, okay, now you're trying to be intentional and create new patterns and new things in that case, because they're just a different dynamics in the relationship. Okay. But these are things that we have to be mindful of. Now, when the child leaves the home or they're getting ready to leave the home, definitely a shift in the relationship. The communication with your child is going to change. For me, my oldest is in the Navy, so he's on the, when he's on the ship, when he's deployed, I can't hear his voice. But I've always told him, like, boy, I better hear from you. Right. So he'll text, he'll check in, but that's totally, totally different. I don't get to see him, that often like I want to. Right. I think the last time I see him, he surprised me on my birthday. November, December, January, so I haven't seen him in about 7, 8 months. And even before then, it was like a year since I saw him before that. Yes, of course, I miss my child, right? And there is a shift in the relationship, but you also kind of got to prepare yourself as they're getting ready to leave. Please don't be that parent to guilt trip your child into not going after their dreams, not going to the colleges that they desire to go to because you're having a hard time. Now, that's not fair, mom. I understand it's challenging, but that's not fair. We don't want our kids to grow up with any regrets. We don't want our children just making decisions solely on appeasing us because that's not always right. We could be a little selfish with that. So let's not be selfish because at the end of the day, your child has their own testimony that God has for them, their own places where God wants them to be. And we have to be okay with that and know how to let go with that. If you're concerned about those things, then make sure you are instilling principles and characters and values in them while they are home. Okay. So there's a different dynamic of the relationship. Learn to respect the autonomy while still wanting to guide. Right. I still send little nuggets and stuff to my oldest child while he's out the house. I know he has a lot more freedom. I know he has a lot more access to a lot of things, but I'm gonna still drop little nuggets. I now did he got off that Life 360 app when he left the house. So what could I say? Right? You paying your own phone bill, like you're handling yourself like you're within a career path, right? Being in the military. He got off that Life 360 because I was watching that Life 360 like a Hulk. But our compromise, he still left the Find My iPhone. So every once in a while, I still look at it in the show like, oh, he's in Arabian Sea, oh, he's in China, or he's this, Japan, or whatever the case it is. That was our level of compromise, but there was a shift in the dynamics in our relationship. There was a shift in the conversations and the things that he asked. I was very happy to hear, like when my oldest will reach out or text when he's in deep thought or have questions. Yes, that does my heart well. But I'm not going to force myself on him or make him do anything. I'm going to keep that same dialogue. But again, that was something that we developed while we were home. I did a lot more fussing though while he was home. So I know he doesn't miss that. And those are things I had to work on as well. But understand that as this shift of the relationship is going to take place when your child is getting ready to leave the home, just know you're not being pushed out. You're being invited into a new way of showing up. So let it evolve. Let it grow. Trust what you've taught them. Trust what you've developed. Trust the foundation that you have built. And if you're watching this and you feel like you have not built it and there are things you can do differently, it's not too late. It's still not too late. You could change the dynamics of the conversation, change things that you like, I want to talk to you about this. And now you just have more of their input in the dialogue of the relationship. Okay. Now, next thing I want you to think about is when the nest isn't fully empty, but it's changing. And those are for those who have multiple children, right? One leaves at a time. So for moms that have more than one child, there's definitely might be a different tug of having some kids still at the home while one leaves. Things just look different. Dynamics just look different. Okay. It can have an impact on your family routines, the family rhythm, the family traditions, and things of that nature because that one child isn't there. But that doesn't mean you stop. That doesn't mean, and I hope if y'all don't have favorites, right? But if for some of those who do have favorites, if that child who left the house was one of your favorites, and now your dynamics are different with the children who are in the home, because maybe they bring a little bit more challenges. I need you to work on that. I need you to pray about that as well, because the way that we show up for all of our children should be evident and evident in a way that meets the love language of that child. So we have to show up differently for each of them. So while you're grieving the one loss of one, rejoice with the ones that are still there. If there's things that you have learned with raising that first one, you're like, I want to do things differently, well, then implement those differences with the children that are still home. It's not too late, okay? It's okay. Another thing that we go through as your children get ready to leave the house is you start to wonder what you wish they knew. Right? The little things you hope your child carries with them, like how to pray when things feel heavy, how to pick good friends, how to do these different things. There's so many stuff. How do you set boundaries? How do you stand up for yourself? it's so much different stuff that goes through your mind. You hope that they remember that home is a safe place to land. I know one of the things that we told like our oldest, I don't care how dumb something is you did or whatever you think, there is nothing that you cannot come back and talk to us about. Like, don't think for any moment that there is anything that you do, whether you realize after the fact, like maybe this was not the best decision, that we not gonna be there for you for. We will always be there. That is that one seed, because we know that, children, when they start thinking they grown, they start doing all type of stuff. Why? Because flat out they think they're grown. They think that that's what they're able to do, and then that's what they do. And then we know they make choices, they make mistakes, but we also going to extend that grace, right? So the things that you wish that they knew, start talking to them about it. Things you want imparted in them, talk to them about it. It's not too late. But you got to give them grace. Holding on to the reins so tight, not allowing your children to make any mistakes is not the answer as well. I know with my oldest in his senior years, because we started bumping heads, because I'm like, I'm on him from this, I'm on him from this, on him for this. And it was interfering with our relationship. So I remember I had a conversation with him and I said, I'm about to back up. I'm not going to back up because I don't care. I'm not backing up because I agree with your decision making. I'm backing up because I want to make sure we have a close relationship when you leave this house. I don't want the last things for you to remember is how I'm fussing at you. I said certain things that I'm not backing off on is your ACT, finishing up your high school requirements. So if you do decide to go to college later, you have all that stuff in place since you was going into the military. I said, but some of these other decisions and things you do when you got the car, or you're lying about this, that, or there, or whatever the case it might be. I said, I'm going to stop fussing about it. I'd rather you still make bad decisions while you're home than when you're out and about. And we had some little like guidelines, whatever, what that looks like. But I also wanted to see the type of person that he was, not who he pretended to be. Because our kids know how to put on face around their parents. They know what to say, what not to say, depending on the situation. And I was honest with him. I said, I want to see who you really are. I want to see what I've instilled in you. I want to see your character, not just doing things because your mom and dad told you to do something. And it did. I feel like it did shift things in our relationship because I did stop nitpicking about certain things. And then my nitpicking still came from a place, I think, of fear at times. Like, you can't do that. You got to be mindful of this. Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do that? That worry and I can't place it on him. That's not fair. So we got to be mindful of that and those dynamics and as they're getting ready to leave the house. I want you to embrace and know that there is beauty in this new season. If your child is confident enough to go to college, they're confident enough to go to the military, they're confident enough to go to trade school, they're going to get their AA degrees, whatever it is that they're doing, that is what you want them to do. You want them to grow up. You want them to be independent to some extent, right? While also maintaining a healthy relationship and boundary with them. But that doesn't just happen. You have to cultivate that. And that's something that you do throughout the years. And the biggest guiding force to allow me to know when to make those changes and when to do things differently has always been God, because that even looks different for each of my children. Okay. But embrace the beauty in this new season. Embrace the potential for deeper relationships with the remaining children that are home. Because now you got one less kid. So now you can put more focus on the other ones as well. Right? Because the relationship is going to look different when that older one. Start creating new traditions with that older child as they leave the house, or check-ins or video chats, or whatever the case it is. Your role as a mother is always going to continually evolve. And so does your purpose in their life. Who you were to them when they were an infant is not who they need for you to be when they're 20, 25, 30, 40 plus. That's not the same they don't need the same thing from you. The relationship evolves. And that is sometimes what is not talked about when we hear about motherhood and our purpose and what we do. Our purpose shifts through the different seasons, just like our purpose shifts as women and daughter of God based on what's going on. So embrace the beauty in it. Embrace the new season. Don't look at it and be disgruntled. Don't operate and move out of fear with your decisions or holding on to them, not letting them make any decisions, making your guilt and put it on them. No. You got to breathe. You got to let them go. You got to let them fly. Because guess what, mama? They don't belong to you. God just gave them to you as a gift for a time to partner with him to instill in them what he wanted you to instill in them so they can go into their kingdom purpose. They can go into their testimony and what God has for them in their life, right? So our job is just to train them up in the way they should go. Okay. This new season doesn't mean that your job is over. It means the next chapter is here. You've poured into them. Now it's time to pour into yourself a little bit more. And that's not selfish, that's life giving. Okay. Stay connected even from a distance. Okay. No matter what it looks like, video calls, voice notes, if you're sending each other reels here and there, figure out what that looks like. Still make it fun and enjoyable, and allow them to lead, the conversations. You'll be surprised. When I know my oldest son, when he left the house, it was kind of like he hit us, my husband and I, with, everything that y'all was teaching me, it was right. You're like, oh, really? It took for the world and everything else to show you that we wasn't just over exaggerating about certain stuff. And you'll just see how things come around in a full circle. Okay. Your love has shifted. Your role has shifted, but your love and support will never fade. Don't just be their mom from afar, but to be their safety net, even when they're not asking for it. Okay. Letting go doesn't mean that you're going to love them less. It means that you're trusting them more, trusting the God who held you as a daughter and will now hold them as they grow up. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel like a little lost, but I need you to remember there's life on the other side of this season and you're not walking it alone. Okay, mama? Embrace this new season. It's really going to be okay. They're going to be okay. All right. Until next time, continue to pursue her, being heroic, empowered, and resilient as a mother. Take care.